side of him. I think he's still that same Steve. He's still that. But now you're also seeing another side of him that he never had to show.
That was Terry Vaughn, one of the people who worked closely with Steve Harvey years back, calling him out for never really changing his ways.
Well, I guess you talked about how you feel that the beef between Bernie Mac and Steve Harvey was because Steve Harvey was getting a lot of network love during the time and Bernie Mac not so much.
Yeah, and then Bernie started to get it.
And guess what? That same view didn't fade. It started popping up again among other folks who had crossed paths with Steve too. Turns out, even his so-called rise to fame wasn't as organic as everyone thought. Behind the polished smile and TV spotlight, there's a whole lot of smoke and mirrors. And the friendships he lost along the way, the damage had already been done. And this isn't just about ex-friends or co-stars. Steve's reputation has rubbed people the wrong way who've never even shared a room with him. I mean, how many comedians are sitting at his level? Not many.
He got it. Everybody thinks Steve Harvey's some stand-up man. No, I'm a kiss the old girl who owned TV One. He used to kiss her. He had the radio show out here.
That's why his name stays trending. But these days, people aren't just talking about his success, they're dissecting how he got there. Inside the industry, the whispers have turned into straight-up side-eye. Steve's been accused of some wild behavior, stuff that completely clashes with his world's uncle image. The man who preaches wisdom, respect, and loyalty? Behind the scenes, people say it's a whole different story.
Essentially, Bernie, felt like he didn't want to do it anymore. He was on his own path, and Steve. So, nothing like that ever happens or doesn't happen for a reason. So
For starters, that whole self-made king narrative? Yeah, not so clear-cut. Multiple sources say he's been caught in lies about how he really climbed the ladder. And even worse, there are claims he's jacked jokes from lesser-known comics. That's a major red flag in the comedy world, and it's got people side-eyeing every punchline he's ever told. And it doesn't stop there. Beyond the stage lights, Steve's personal life is a whole other circus. He's been parading around as a love guru, preaching relationship advice, writing books, selling that perfect husband dream.
Was that the most successful comedy tour ever at that point?
Yes, it was at that point.
But those close to him say his own house is far from peaceful. The same man who built an empire off love talk can't seem to keep things steady at home. What's wild is how he morphs into something new depending on who's watching. Mentor to some, menace to others. And now, the spotlight's burning hotter than ever. New reports have dropped, and they're painting a picture that's hard to ignore, one that shows a pattern going way back. Even people he once called brother in the business have started spilling.
Steve was hot. We had the Steve Harvey show, so we had a national TV show. Bernie Mac was the it comedian at the time, and then DL was hot. He had a TV show.
They're done protecting him, and the receipts are messy. It's like the curtain's finally coming down, and the truth about who Steve Harvey really is might shock you. So, if you've ever idolized him as the smooth-talking, suit-wearing voice of wisdom, brace yourself, because according to the people who actually know him, that image might just be an illusion. This isn't gossip. It's coming straight from those who worked with him, laughed with him, and later learned the hard way who they were really dealing with. So, what is Steve Harvey really? A life coach? A relationship guru? A comic? Or just a man who learned how to play every role perfectly until the mask started to crack? From the 90s stages that made him a star to the polished talk shows that crowned him a king.
Oh, what I think, but the first year we did it, it was just me, Bernie, and Steve. Right. And Steve closed.
Steve Harvey's story might not be the inspirational fairy tale we were sold. It might just be the biggest act he's ever pulled. What made Steve Harvey's name hit different wasn't just his grind, it was how he managed to break away from the pack and make himself the main attraction. From cracking jokes on stage to running whole TV empires, he turned laughter into luxury, but not without stepping on a few toes along the way. And let's keep it real. When we talk about the people he might have stepped over, we're not just talking about random comics. We're talking Bernie Mac.
He, felt like he didn't want to do it anymore. He was on his own path, and Steve. So, nothing like that ever happens or doesn't happen for a reason.
Yeah, one of the original kings of comedy himself. If you were around in the early 2000s, you remember that tour like it was yesterday. Pure fire. And if you weren't, then trust me, whatever story you've heard about Steve's come up probably leaves out the messy half. The original kings of comedy, Steve Harvey, D.L. Hewley, Cedric the Entertainer, and Bernie Mac changed comedy forever. They didn't just sell out arenas. They rewrote what black comedy looked like on a global stage. Each man brought a unique flavor, but let's not front. The spotlight didn't shine evenly. Steve was the smooth talker.
That was one of the reasons why you did the first part, and then the second part.
I think, of course, that was, definitely a contributing circumstance, but I also think
The guy who could charm an audience with a wink and a jab, but he also had a reputation for being ruthless, roasting people in the front row about their clothes, hair, or even their jobs. Bernie, on the other hand, was raw, the kind of comic who turned pain into punchlines and made truth sound hilarious. And that's where the problem started. Word is, Steve couldn't stand that Bernie's edge hit deeper than his polish. What started as friendly competition allegedly turned into pure jealousy, and that tension grew until it became full-blown beef. And now, decades later, one of the King's own has confirmed it.
That Bernie said in the GQ article that when he got Ocean's 11, Steve had reached out to the producers and said he thought he would be a better fit and tried to get the part and blah, blah, blah. And that was some that, you just don't know.
Cedric the Entertainer recently spilled on Shannon Sharp's Club Shay Shay that the tension between Bernie and Steve was real. He said, yeah, I mean, they were both alpha males. They just saw it different, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, they was able to get through it. But the story didn't stop there. Far from it. In 2003, Bernie Mac opened up in a GQ interview, saying Steve was jealous and even tried to sabotage him for movie roles.
TV talk show?
Yeah, TV talk show.
Okay, this was the one he had on NBC just recently.
Whatever, yeah. The one damn, who took his show from him?
Kelly Clarkson.
How can Kelly Clarkson take your show, homie?
Steve fired back years later in a 2010 interview, claiming he was hurt by Bernie's words, but that damage was already done. And to make it worse, other people backed Bernie's side, including comedian Damon Williams. Fans weren't buying Steve's innocence either. One fan wrote online, "I never liked Steve Harvey. People always said how much of a raccoon he's always been," which is a fact. But he also had a superiority complex over other black comedians he worked with, including Bernie and Cedric. And get this, while Steve was allegedly trying and failing to outshine Bernie, he might have pulled a slick move on another comic. Mark Curry. Yeah, Mr. Hangin' with Mr. Cooper himself. Mark didn't bite his tongue. He went public saying Steve flat out stole his material. According to Curry, Steve jacked entire bits from his Halloween routine and used them on the Steve Harvey Show. Mark told it straight on, the Mike and Donnie Show on Fox Soul, saying, "Steve stole my material on his show, so I had a beef on that. He did all of my Halloween material. Well,
Steve stole my material on his show, so I had a beef on that.
On what show?
When he was on the bullshit talk show he had, and he did all my Halloween material one
Halloween. And if that wasn't enough, he doubled down in a TMZ interview, saying it didn't happen just once, it happened twice. He said he even confronted Steve about it, but the joke stealing didn't stop. According to Mark, Harvey used his jokes not only on the Steve Harvey Show, but also on Kids Say the Darndest Things. That's wild, right? For a man who built a brand around wisdom and integrity, these claims hit hard. And if what these comics are saying is true, then maybe Steve's biggest act wasn't comedy. It was pretending to be the good guy, while everyone around him knew the truth. Mark Curry didn't hold back when he called out Steve Harvey, and he made sure the world heard him loud and clear. My thing with Steve Harvey...
No, I haven't. My thing with Steve Harvey is that he used my material on both his platforms.
Yeah.
After I talked to him, I saw him at Def Jam, I went up and talked to him, I said, "Man, you're using my material."
Mark told TMZ, "He used my material on both his platforms. You're taking money out my pocket. You've made it. You're very wealthy. Stop using my material." Mark said he even confronted him face to face. "I saw him, Steve and I went up to talk to him and I said, 'Baby, you using my material, taking money out of my pocket. You made enough money, you don't have to take it away from me.' But instead of fixing things, Steve allegedly went and used the same joke again, this time on his kids' show. Now that's bold, especially coming from a man who built his whole image around being Mr. Morals, the TV preacher who does no wrong. But instead of owning up, Steve flat out denied everything, even when it was painfully clear the material matched. And as wild as that sounds,
he knows that Steve Harvey stole his Halloween bit,
because it was a personal story. He was talking about himself growing up.
This wasn't the first time Steve's name got dragged into beef with another comic. Next up, Cat Williams. If you've followed comedy long enough, you already know those two have been at odds for over a decade, and it's not without reason. Let's rewind to 2008, right before a big Christmas show. Cat Williams took aim at Steve publicly, calling him out and setting the stage for one of the most talked about feuds in comedy history. Jamie Foxx, who was hosting a radio show at the time, played the clip that lit the match. Cat said, "I want to apologize for what's going to happen."
People that look like me, like Oprah, Tyler, Lee Daniels, and I gotta put my brother Steve on the list. Y'all knew I was not wrong.
But the second that you get on stage, you need to understand that's your final time as the king of comedy. Water seeks its own level. You can't stop it, Playboy. It is what it is. I hope you're ready. I hope you got a team of writers. You're gonna need about 6 or 7 of them. That message went straight for the crown, literally calling out Steve's King of Comedy title. Steve phoned in soon after, claiming he was baffled by Cat's attack. "I've always been cool with Cat," he told Jamie Foxx and the crew. "I didn't even know who he was when I was on the radio in LA.
I heard you go on the air and you said, my sister done burnt too many bridges, and there's nothing I can do for her now. Steve, do you know how hurt I was?"
He hadn't been in movies or anything yet. He was just talking about me in the clubs, and I asked whoever Cat Williams is to call me. But this wasn't the last time Steve's "I'm the bigger man" routine fell apart. Another on-air moment exposed just how calculated he could be. And this time, it was with none other than Monique. Usually when you're invited on a show, you're the guest. But Monique flipped the script completely. During her appearance on Steve, she didn't just charm the crowd.
"You're telling people you work with, I don't want you even to be next to me. Like, I have such disdain for you that I am annoyed by your presence."
She aired out industry secrets, directly calling out Steve for how he treated her when she took a stand in Hollywood. Monique recalled how she got blackballed after refusing to do unpaid promo work for the movie Precious. "I said no to some very powerful people," she told him, explaining that she was punished for demanding fair pay. Years later, when she called out Netflix for underpaying her compared to Chris Rock and Amy Schumer, Steve chimed in, and his comments weren't exactly supportive. Fans were shocked, not just because of what he said, but because the man they'd seen preaching integrity on TV
was on his 3rd marriage. His 3rd wife was mistress to his 2nd wife.
Suddenly sounded like a sellout. Monique didn't let it slide, and after that, many started realizing what kind of man Steve Harvey really was behind that family values brand. And that image started cracking even more once people inside his own camp began talking. Steve wasn't just strict, he was downright cold. Word leaked about a memo he sent to his staff, and once the contents went public, people saw a whole new side of him. And it wasn't pretty. The memo said, "My security team will stop everyone from standing at my door who have the intent to see or speak to me. I want all the ambushing to stop now. That includes TV staff."
All the emails and the text messages and the different things that were.
"You must schedule an appointment. I promise you I will not entertain you in the hallway. Do not attempt to walk with me." That's not leadership. That's ego on steroids. Fans were stunned that a man who made millions giving advice on humility and kindness could treat his team like strangers. And when reporters pressed him about it later, he didn't apologize. He doubled down. Can you believe that? Even after the world saw the memo and agreed it was messed up, Steve stood firm like he'd done nothing wrong.
If I was angry, the time for me to strike out would have been during the actual window of the divorce.
It's one thing to build an empire, but acting like the people who helped build it don't deserve respect. That's a whole different story, and it's finally catching up to him. When that leaked memo blew up online, Steve Harvey doubled down instead of apologizing. He told reporters, "I couldn't find a way to walk from the stage to my dressing room, to sit in my makeup chair, or just grab lunch without somebody walking in." Then he added, "I've always had a policy where people could come talk to me, but some of them started taking advantage of it. Now, on the surface, that might sound reasonable, But if you've been following Steve's story, you already know this isn't new behavior.
Even though I started to find out things in my relationship that I was not happy.
It's just more of the same. This man's been brushing off bad behavior for years, acting like the problem is everyone else. Behind the smiles and the fake wisdom, there's a long trail of arrogance and double standards. And don't forget, the same guy who goes on TV preaching loyalty and love built a whole brand off relationship advice, while his own love life's been chaos. He's written books, hosted talk shows, told men and women how to treat each other. But in his own world, he's allegedly cheated on every wife he's had. And what's worse, he once tried to justify it. He literally said men cheat because there are so many women willing to give themselves to a man who doesn't belong to them. That line alone tells you everything about how he sees relationships. And if you look back at his life, his actions seem to follow that same logic. Let's rewind. Back in 1981, when Steve was still struggling to get his break, he married his first wife, Marsha Harvey. They had a family together, but while Marsha was home raising kids, Steve was out chasing fame. By 1994, it all fell apart. The streets say he cheated, even leaving Marsha while she was pregnant with their third child. Marsha kept her dignity, staying away from the chaos. She wrote a few books, lived quietly, and moved on. But Steve? He didn't take long to start over. In 1996, he married Mary Shackelford, a makeup artist he allegedly started seeing while still married to Marsha. And here's where things got real messy. Mary claimed she found a letter from Steve's mistress, and that discovery blew the lid off everything. By 2006, the marriage was done. But in 2017, Mary came back swinging with serious accusations, saying Steve had cheated on her multiple times, including with the woman he's married to right now, Marjorie Harvey. She even accused him of physical abuse and of interfering with her custody case, saying it caused her emotional distress and the loss of her child. She sued for $60 million, but the case was thrown out. Still, the claims spread like wildfire, and people started questioning the good guy act for real. Steve told The Hollywood Reporter the lawsuit was ridiculous, saying it was just an attempt to take his money. But whether true or not, the drama didn't stop there, because fast forward to 2023, and Steve found himself in another cheating scandal, this time with Marjorie right beside him. Podcaster Tasha K dropped a bombshell on Instagram, claiming she had receipts that Steve was cheating on Marjorie with his private chef, a stunning vegan woman he allegedly hired for more than just cooking.
Jimmy L. Townsend, you do not look like what you've been through. Now, you've served over 20 years. 27 years in prison.
She said the relationship between Steve and his chef went way beyond professional boundaries. The news broke the internet, but surprisingly, most people didn't rush to defend Marjorie either. Why? Because she's got her own history that's just as shady. See, long before Steve came into the picture, Marjorie had ties to the streets, and not just rumors. Reports say she was once married to not one, but two convicted drug dealers. The first, a Memphis drug lord named Jim L. Townsend, who was sentenced to life for trafficking. Word on the block was that Marjorie was deep enough in the operation that if Townsend hadn't cooperated, she could have been charged too. People online even gave her the nickname Lady Heroin. Even though that's all from her past, it's followed her for years, and fans haven't forgotten. Every time Steve tries to play the moral authority, someone brings up Marjorie's record, or the way they allegedly got together while he was still married. The internet's ruthless, but in this case, they're just connecting the dots. And those dots paint a picture that's hard to ignore. A man who preaches discipline and faith, but can't seem to live by his own rules. Some fans still give him the benefit of the doubt, but others are calling him out hard. One person online wrote, "I've never met him, and I'm definitely out of line, but Steve has always rubbed me the wrong way. I can't explain it, he just has." And honestly, they're not alone. Every few months, another story breaks, another mask slips, and we see more of the man behind the brand. And it's not the mentor or role model people thought they knew. At this point, Steve's career might be untouchable, but his reputation, it's hanging by a thread. What do you think? Is Steve Harvey finally being exposed for who he really is? Or is the world just tired of the image he's been selling for decades? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and make sure you subscribe, because this story isn't over yet, and you'll definitely want to be here for the next one.